Welcome to the world of shadows and chills, where monsters reign supreme. I kind of hate that intro, to be honest. That sucked. Today we're diving into the golden age of Universal Monsters, a period that defined horror cinema and left an indelible mark on popular culture, and an even more indelible mark on my family's bonding. Seriously, we were pretty obsessed with Halloween Horror Nights for way too long. For the past few months, I've been kind of kicking around ideas as to what I would do if I were responsible for resurrecting a monster cinematic universe.
Yeah, so what?
But if we're going to do that, we need to first understand what made the golden age of monster movies so special, and where the new universe kind of missed the mark. So it all started in the early 1930s when Carl Laemmle, founder of Universal Pictures, decided to take a gamble on a genre that had not yet made its mark in Hollywood: horror. Carl Laemmle Jr., the son of the studio's founder, obviously because of the whole junior part, was the visionary behind the studio's bold new direction. He had a passion for the macabre, so Laemmle Jr. pushed Universal to create films that would terrify audiences and bring these literary monsters to life. The first major success came in 1931 with the release of Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi.
Stop!
I think I said that right. Is it Lugosi or Lugosi? Lugosi. Dang it. I should have looked that up before I started recording. Lugosi's portrayal of the Transylvanian Count set the standard for vampire films and introduced audiences to a new kind of horror, one that was seductive, atmospheric, and deeply unsettling. This wasn't the first time the Count had made it onto the silver screen, but Universal was the first studio to get the rights to Bram Stoker's original novel. And the success of Dracula proved that there was an appetite for horror, and Universal was quick to follow up with more iconic films. Later that same year, Universal released Frankenstein, directed by James Whale and starring Boris Karloff as the monster. The film's groundbreaking makeup effects and powerful storytelling cemented its place in cinema history, with Karloff becoming a horror icon overnight. And this sort of leads me into my first point. In the Golden Age, the monsters were the stars. See, in most cases, these movies had small, shoestring budgets with short production time. And one of the ways they were able to save money was by hiring unknown actors and actresses to play the lead roles. And they were able to cover this up by putting a mask on said unknown actor or actress. And it goes without saying that this emphasis was on special effects and not CGI. So following the success of Dracula and Frankenstein, Universal Pictures continued to explore the world of monsters. The Mummy brought an ancient curse to life. The Invisible Man toyed with the fear of the unseen. And the Wolfman delved into the primal fear of transformation and loss of control. You see, each of these movies highlighted genuine fears that people felt on a daily basis. Most people don't actually go about their day scared of poltergeists or curses or Tom Cruise. But we do fear the unknown, and we fear intruders, and we fear science and technology going too far. So as I said, when it came to those classic monster movies of the past, the focus was on one thing: the monsters themselves. And horror is one of the few genres that seamlessly forces us to take on the role of those in the story and question what our actions would be. That's why these films didn't need massive budgets or big name actors or even perfect lighting. What they did need, and what they delivered in spades, was fear. One of the great successes of the MCU was how intricately things were connected. But with the golden age of monster movies, not everything had to be explained or connected. In fact, it was that lack of explanation that made these stories so chilling. The unknown is terrifying because it defies logic and reason, just like these classic monster movies. The monsters were symbols of the fears we couldn't name, the dangers lurking beyond our understanding. It didn't make sense because It didn't need to make sense. Let's be honest, life rarely does. It was this atmosphere of uncertainty, this deliberate embrace of the unknown, that made these movies iconic. They showed us that sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see, it's what you don't. And that's what takes us to our first story, Angel's Hollow, a Bigfoot tale. So the first well-known account of a Bigfoot-like creature thing comes from the Diary of David Thompson. No, not that David Thompson. Although that David Thompson is a Kakalaki kid, go Pack. This David Thompson. He was a British-Canadian explorer, surveyor, and fur trader. Everyone cool back in the day was a surveyor. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, my dad. In 1811, while traveling near what is now Jasper, Alberta, Thompson reported finding large, human-like footprints in the snow, which he could not attribute to any known animal. Although he didn't actually see the creature that made the footprints, but his account is often cited as the earliest recorded encounter with Bigfoot.
Liar.
In 1958, however, Bigfoot stepped into national spotlight when a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew found massive footprints near Bluff Creek, California. And soon, the media coined the term Bigfoot. So, even though David Thompson definitely lied, we know the media always tells the truth. Fast forward to 1967, when the famous Patterson-Gimlin film was shot. This controversial footage, supposedly showing a female Bigfoot strolling through the woods near Bluff Creek, remains one of the most famous and debated pieces of evidence in Bigfoot lore. But Bigfoot didn't just stay in the woods, he made his way into pop culture too. In 1972, the legend of Boggy Creek brought Bigfoot to the big screen. Then there's Harry and the Hendersons, the 1987 family comedy that gave us friendly Bigfoot named, you guessed it, Harry. Willow Creek, a 2013 found footage horror film, dives deep into the search for Bigfoot, drawing heavy inspiration from the Patterson-Gimlin film. So I'm personally a huge fan of found footage films, and if you are too, Willow Creek might be worth checking out. I don't know, I haven't seen it. But it's got an 81 on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's probably pretty good. Bigfoot even popped up in an episode of The $6 Million Man, which I don't know why that's so funny to me. But he also had his own show on Animal Planet for 6 years. That's crazy. And he somehow even made it into video games like Red Dead Redemption and GTA San Andreas. And Rob Zombie co-wrote a graphic novel about him because, of course, that's a thing that exists. So Bigfoot, in my universe, however, will kind of operate as our universe's creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, I know I said earlier that part of what made the golden age of horror flicks so good was the focus on the monsters themselves. But my interpretation of the creature from the Black Lagoon very much addresses this notion of humans as monsters. I kind of wanted to tackle that in the outline script that is posted in the description. Again, emphasis on outline. Again, I want to remind everyone I have no creative background. I'm figuring this thing out as I go. But I think that kind of captures the spirit of the golden age of monster movies. It was really all about risk-taking. Most of the original Universal horror movies were shot on shoestring budgets and really, really short production time. The production of the creature from the Black Lagoon took about 4 months. Filming began in late 1953 and was completely done in 1954, and it was released in March of that same year. So I spent 1 day writing the storyboard for Angel's Hollow and maybe half a day editing it, because we got to get it filmed by March. I once heard someone say the most disturbing thing about the Holocaust is that the Nazis were humans, and I'm also a human. And what that means is that we all have the potential to be monsters when driven by the wrong thing. We ask, can we, far more than we ask, should we? In my last video, I talked about forbidden knowledge being the first temptation in the Bible, represented in the story of Adam and Eve. And this idea of can versus should is what's represented in the Tower of Babel. That's going to be the driving force of this first phase. From Snowden to WikiLeaks to the Patriot Act, emails, laptops, payoffs, collusion that may or may not exist, democratic processes that may or may not exist, we live in a world of mistrust. Combine that with social media and the expansion of AI, and it seems as though we've kind of outgrown ourselves as a species. Angels Hollow is a small town ready to tear itself apart because everyone wants to place human blame on supernatural occurrences. The reality is, we're responsible for our own peace and happiness. If you need some convincing, read these books. You see, we lose agency and run the risk of seeing the absolute worst versions of ourselves when we go around looking for people to blame. Just ask this guy. So if you want to check out my revival of a Golden Age monster, I'll leave a link to the Angels Hollow outline in the description. Please feel free to check it out. Comment any advice, criticism, plot holes, etc. Anything that'll help make this story better. I think it'd be pretty cool if this could eventually be turned into a novella or graphic novel or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll call Rob Zombie. Anyways, class dismissed.